Hi, you're watching Helen Explains Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad. Day 4, You and White Silence. Now, if you haven't watched my introduction video, then please do so. Click up here, I'll link to it up here, and I'll also link to it down in the description. I really recommend you watch that one first before you get into this one, because I'm going to just jump straight in. I'm not going to give you really any introduction because that video says it all. And this week in part 1, we're going to be covering the basics. So that includes you and white privilege, you and white fragility, you and tone policing, you and white silence, you and white superiority, and you and white exceptionalism. Now, if some of these terms don't ring a bell, then that's absolutely fine, because we're going to be going through them. I'm going to give you a bit of definition, and I'm going to read some extracts from the book, and then also look at the questions that Layla suggests you reflect on. And even if these terms are really familiar to you, then it's always worth going over something again, and you might learn something new, as Layla's take is really direct, really well thought out and explained, and just fantastic in helping you understand how these fit into the overall overarching white supremacy. Day 4, you and white silence. White silence, Layla says, is exactly what it sounds like. It is when people with white privilege stay complicitly silent when it comes to issues of race and white supremacy. So earlier this year, Leona Lewis described her experience of racism towards her and her father.
You know, I just wish that the people in the store, that the white people in the store that all left, they left out of disgust because they knew something, they knew it was wrong, and they left, but they didn't say anything. And because they didn't say anything, the situation escalated. So we were left on our own with this woman in the store who became more agitated and felt like people were leaving because my dad and I were disrupting the peace. No, they were leaving because they were disgusted at this woman's behavior, but they didn't say anything. So for the people that are not speaking out or not saying anything, like, you're the people that left. You just left. You kind of, oh, it's disgusting, but it's going to disrupt my day too much to really get involved and really stand by their side and say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you targeting them? This is wrong. So when I see messaging of, you know, don't stay silent, say something, it's real. You need to say something. You need to stand with us, and you need to acknowledge that it's happening, because when you don't acknowledge that it's happening, you're diminishing the pain and you're diminishing our humanity. And I'm tired and I'm sick of it.
The key thing in the whole situation that she spoke about was the other white people in the shop left. They didn't say anything, they didn't speak up. They walked out of the shop because it became an uncomfortable situation. And yes, they could see it was an uncomfortable situation, so they didn't want to give the shop any more custom. But in that moment, as a white person experiencing racism, that's when you have to speak up, because you and your white silence is even more damaging. Layla lists a few examples of white silence in action. So, staying silent when your family members or friends make racist jokes or comments, staying silent when you see your colleagues of colour being discriminated against at work, staying silent when white people treat your biracial family members in ways they would not treat your white family members, staying silent by choosing not to engage in any conversations about race because of your white fragility, staying silent by not attending protest marches against racism like Black Lives Matter or protests for immigrants at risk, staying silent when your favourite famous spiritual teacher, coach, mentor, author is called out for racist behaviour, Staying silent when you witness other white people use their white privilege, white fragility, or tone policing against BIPOC. Staying silent by not sharing social media posts about race and racism in your spaces because of the way it might affect your personal or professional life, or simply reposting the posts of BIPOC but not adding your own voice or perspective. Staying silent about your anti-racism work for fear of losing friends and followers. Staying silent by not holding those around you accountable for their racist behaviour. It's hard. It's really, really hard, this anti-racism work. It's not easy, and no one's going to be perfect. The fundamental thing, though, is to speak up, to add your voice, to listen and to learn. Because ultimately, if you start conversations, if you start the reading, if you say a little thing, it's better than saying nothing. It's better than saying silent. Because as Layla says, now understand that no matter who you are, no matter what level of power, influence or authority you hold, your voice is needed. All of our voices are needed, as someone who recognises that their white privilege can be a weapon used against white supremacy. Your silence is a loud message that you side with white supremacy. To be silent is to be complicit and to endorse what someone's saying, because you're not rebutting them. You're not being like, hang on, that's problematic. You need to not say that. You're just being like, and then they can get away with it because they're not experiencing anything any different. So, the journaling prompts. How have you stayed silent when it comes to race and racism? What types of situations elicit the most white silence from you? How has your silence been complicit in upholding racist behaviour? How do you benefit from white silence? Whom in your life do you harm with your white silence?